Let me take you back to the beginning. We tied the knot when I was 25 and she was 23. It was after dating for 4 years. But before that, there was an incident. When she went to visit her friend in California, her friend introduced her to a guy she'd never met before. Long story short, she was cheating on me with that guy for the entire 2 weeks. As a result, we called it quits for about a year. Fast forward a bit, we reconnected, and eventually we got married. But during our marriage, she transformed into a completely different person. She stopped giving me love and affection, and when I expressed my frustration, she would reject me. It would make me angry, and I would say mean things to her, reminding her of what she had done in the past because I knew it would hurt her. Now, let's get back to Labor Day weekend in 2021. My then wife was in Texas for Air Force training, and we were living in Ohio at the time. She would call me and the kids, who were 7 and 3 at the time, every day and stay on the phone for a while talking about anything and everything. But all of a sudden, the calls became shorter and shorter until one day she missed a call completely. When I confronted her about it, she claimed she was studying for tests. But when it happened again, and she was utterly wasted and drunk on the phone, I got angry and hung up on her. The next day she told me she needed space, making me out to be the bad guy here. We barely talked for 2 weeks after that. We had 2 kids now, but our marriage had become more of a platonic relationship, with little to no love or affection from her. I would try to kiss her, but it felt forced and empty. After our second child, we were like roommates sharing a house, and it took a toll on my mental health. I couldn't be the father or husband I wanted to be, so I sought help from a mental health professional. But let's backtrack a bit. When we were dating, she visited a friend in California who had married a Marine and moved there. During her visit, she met up with a guy her friend wanted to set her up with and cheated on me for 2 weeks. We broke up for a year, but then reconnected and got back together. Our marriage was rocky, to say the least, with her denying me closeness. When I would express my frustration, I would lash out and say hurtful things. So after our argument, when we weren't talking, I knew something had to change. I've blamed myself for our lack of spark and the effect it had on my mental health. She mentioned wanting to go camping alone. But I saw it as an opportunity to surprise her and try to rekindle our love. I arranged for a babysitter and went to her hotel on base, getting an extra key card from the staff. But when I entered her room, I saw a box of condoms and empty alcohol bottles on the nightstand and counters. And her wedding ring was on the bathroom counter as if it were stored there. I was stunned and devastated, hiding in the closet until she arrived. When she saw me, she said, "You're not supposed to be here," and locked herself in the bathroom. I demanded an explanation, but all she could say was, "I'm sorry," without any remorse or explanation. She even texted a friend to come over as if I was hurting her and left me feeling like I was the one in the wrong. After I discovered my wife's infidelity, I couldn't bear to stay with her any longer. I left her immediately, jumped in a car, and headed straight to the airport to buy the first ticket back home. My heart was shattered, and I could only do the bare minimum for my kids that entire weekend. On Monday, I called her, and she asked for a divorce. I agreed without discussion, still in disbelief. The only thing I managed to say was that I was taking the kids and moving back home where I was medically retiring from the military. After we split, I did some digging and found out that she had spent thousands of dollars at bars and other places during her training while telling us she was studying. I also discovered that she was cheating on me with a guy who kept texting and calling her during that time. Our divorce was finalized without any fighting, but since then she has skipped her time with the kids twice to go on mini vacations with her new boyfriend, who lives 7 hours away in DC. Despite our agreement that she could visit the kids any time she wanted during the week if she cleared it with me first, she only did that once in 6 months. When she calls the kids, they ask where she is, and she admits she's with her new boyfriend. Last Thursday, she called me and said she missed the kids and me and wanted to get back together. I set a condition that she should go through therapy and marriage counseling. For a moment, it seemed like we could work things out. But 2 days later, she told me that she wasn't going to do any of that because she was engaged to the guy who makes her happy. My life was shattered all over again. This past year has been one of constant tears and bedridden days. Without my family, I don't think I could have survived it. I feel worthless and disconnected from everyone I date, plagued by numbness and commitment issues. I can't even find a job, and now I'm tapping into my savings to pay for a house that I bought. I often entertain morbid thoughts of being better off dead, but then I scold myself for it, knowing I have 2 amazing kids who need me. It feels like nothing goes right, and I fear losing everything, including myself. I've been seeing a therapist, but honestly, I don't know if it's doing anything for me. I'm at a loss, unsure of what to do next. Maybe sharing my story will help me feel some relief. I'm not sure what I'm looking for, but I had to get it out there. And then it happened. In January of this year, my ex reached out to me, wanting to patch things up. Apparently she had broken up with the other guy. She called the kids and apologized for not being there for them and for spending all her free time with the other guy. She even told them we were getting back together without even asking me first. I was hesitant, to say the least, and made it clear to her that she needed to seek therapy and work on herself before we even considered getting back together. But this wasn't the first time she had done this. In fact, it was the third time, and I was wary of giving her another chance. The following weekend, the kids and I were heading to Slick City, and they asked if she could come along. I couldn't remember if she had said she would or not, but on Friday she called to say she wasn't feeling well and wouldn't be able to make it. We didn't think much of it and went ahead with our plans. But on Saturday the kids wanted to video chat with her again, and that's when we saw her, all dressed up and walking into a fancy restaurant with the other guy's voice in the background. We were all livid, and my oldest hung up on her without another word. It was a few weeks later when she called, crying and begging for my forgiveness. She was asking for me to take her back for the fourth time. Would it be a case of fourth time lucky? She explained how she had broken up with her controlling ex again. Apparently he had all her passwords, a key to her house, and they even shared bank accounts. She told me how he had left her deep in debt by maxing out her credit card after maxing out 2 of his own. To make matters worse, he had threatened to fly to her town, and if she wasn't there to pick him up, he would just Uber to her house. I immediately advised her to change her locks and stay with a friend for a while. Later she calls me up and tells me that she has changed the locks and that she's on her way to her parents' house, which coincidentally is only 6 hours away in the same town that I live in. She asks me if she can have lunch with me the following day. And like a fool, I agree. She ends up having dinner with me and the kids, and I let her stay the night, though we didn't do anything inappropriate. I felt like things were going great. We were laughing and joking like we used to, and for a while it felt like we were a happy family once again. She left on Sunday, but then she drove back on Wednesday for a weekend. Things were different. She seemed distant and aloof, and her communication wasn't as sweet as it had been the previous weekend. She barely spoke and kept asking me if I thought we could do this. I was getting frustrated because I could see that she was pulling away. I told her that if we were going to make this work, we would need to go through a long road of counseling and therapy. I looked at her and told her that we needed to take a break from spending overnights together and showing the kids that we were together, fooling them into thinking that everything was just peachy. She seemed to understand, or so I thought, but then she ghosted me all day Friday, and when she finally called, she was in tears, saying that she didn't want to work things out. That's when I asked her if she was going back to the other guy. Suddenly her tears vanished, and she was filled with anger, ranting about how much better he was than me in every way, and that she never wanted to see or speak to me again. It was such a bizarre and swift change in behavior when I asked a simple question. The words she chose and the way she lashed out was strange too. A few days later my son came home with a new phone from her, and I noticed that she had a new phone number. It looked like she was now on the other guy's phone plan. I can't shake the feeling that there's something on the phone that he's using to control her. I keep asking myself, why do I keep putting myself and my kids through this? I've been seeing my therapist, and I thought I was making progress, but somehow I got sucked back into the drama. Then a few weeks later, I see my next-door neighbor on a dating app, and I jokingly swipe right. And to my surprise, we match. Story 2. The whole thing began when she told me last minute about a friend's birthday bash and requested that I give her a lift to town, which I did without any hesitation. She returned home around 2 a.m. and claimed it was a wild night out. However, it wasn't until the following weekend, when I was using her computer to print a document she needed, that I stumbled upon some odd search history. I wasn't snooping, but once I saw multiple searches for the morning after pill, I couldn't just ignore it. As soon as I saw those searches, my blood ran cold. What could she need the morning after pill for? So I did what any concerned partner would do. I dug deeper into her search history, and there it was, plain as day, a hotel booking for the same night she went out with her friends. My mind was racing with possibilities, but I tried to stay calm and give her the benefit of the doubt. When I confronted her, she denied everything and insisted it was just a night out with the girls. But when I mentioned the hotel and the morning after pill, her story started to unravel. She finally admitted that she had a one-night stand with a colleague from work. Although she claimed it was just a fling, I couldn't help but wonder if there was more to it than she was letting on. So then we got talking. It all started in 2022, which wasn't exactly our year. Don't get me wrong, it had some good moments, but we were constantly under pressure with work and parenting. We had our own issues and couldn't meet each other's needs. During this time, she started researching ADHD, and I had a hard time grasping what that meant. Fast forward to the start of 2023, and we decided to shake things up. We introduced some mutual kinks into our relationship, and let me tell you, January and most of February were amazing. We rekindled our bed life, which was non-existent in 2022, but things have started to slip back to where they were. The pressures of life are making it hard for me to keep up with the kinky aspects of our relationship that we both enjoyed. Nonetheless, I was still hopeful, as things seemed to be improving overall. But then, the night before she booked the hotel, we had a how that tiny thing had such a big impact. We were already under a lot of stress, with work and kids constantly demanding our attention. Maybe it was the straw that broke the camel's back, which brings us back to the one-night stand. I asked her why she did it. She looked down and fidgeted with her hands. Finally, she explained it as a dopamine rush. The high that she experienced in January, where we were both exploring our mutual kinks and meeting each other's emotional needs, was so intense that she couldn't cope with the low that followed. Whereas I had seen the last few weeks as a temporary setback, she saw it as if I was rejecting her. It all started when a male work colleague began flirting with her, and she found herself unable to resist his advances. She admitted that she was seeking to maintain the dopamine high that she had experienced in January and ended up having a one-night stand with him. While she recognized that this was no excuse for her actions, she was remorseful and apologized for her infidelity. We have since had discussions about the future of our marriage and whether we can move past this betrayal. I have been wondering if her ADHD might have played a role in her decision-making and impulsivity, and would appreciate any advice on this matter. A week had passed since I uncovered my wife's infidelity, but there was still one thing that didn't add up. I suspected that she was lying about who her affair partner was. When I questioned her, she claimed it was a work colleague, someone I had never heard of, who we'll call a P1. She swore that she had no feelings for him and that she had cut off all contact. However, something about her story didn't sit right with me. Then she tried to blame me for her actions, saying that I wasn't giving her enough attention. I couldn't deny that there were areas in our relationship where I could have done better. I had always loved her, but I hadn't always prioritized her needs or shown her enough support. While her actions were inexcusable, I could understand her perspective. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than she was letting on. As we tried to mend our broken relationship, we both agreed to attend marriage counseling. Though we haven't had our first session yet, we talked about the possibility of a future together, and were both willing to give it a shot. However, doubts about her affair partner still lingered in my mind, so I decided to dig deeper into her search history. And what I found left me stunned. The pain just keeps on coming. After snooping through WW's emails, I discovered that she's bought a car seat. The kicker? She doesn't even drive, so the only reason for it must be that she's planning to move in with AP, and the car seat is for his car. She keeps insisting that she wants to live alone, but actions speak louder than words. I know I need to stop obsessing over her whereabouts and focus on moving forward. We've agreed to split childcare 50-50 fiates, but the thought of our daughter spending half the week with AP makes my skin crawl. It's a tough pill to swallow, but I need to accept that my ex-wife has moved on and is creating a new life for herself. The situation is clear to me now. A divorce is inevitable, but I have to make sure that it's an amicable one. In the UK, there is an option for a joint application for divorce, if both parties agree on the division of assets and childcare arrangements. This is what we've agreed on, so it's in my best financial interest to follow through with this. If we were to go to court and contest the divorce, my wife would likely get more money, and I can't prove that living with her and AP would harm our daughter, so I don't think I could win full custody. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but I have to focus on what's best for our daughter and move on with my life. A few days before her visit, I spilled the beans about the affair to my wife's parents. Seems like they're giving her a tough time about it. In response, my wife sent me a message that I had no right to turn her support network against her. I couldn't resist making a snide remark, saying that at least she still has AP to turn to. She retorted, saying that I shouldn't assume that, and repeated that she has no one looking out for her. Her comments are very odd. It seems like her relationship with AP may already be on the rocks, and despite all this, my wife is still insisting that she's moving into her own flat, and that her relationship with AP isn't anything serious. I had my suspicions about my wife's claim that she was moving into a flat on her own. My doubts weren't just rooted in the fact that she was involved with a 23-year-old AP, who was also homeless after his own girlfriend threw him out due to their affair. I also knew that financially, she couldn't afford an apartment by herself. Despite her assurances that she'd keep me informed of any decisions affecting our daughter's care, my faith in her honesty was dwindling. And then, just a few days later, I stumbled upon a shocking discovery. My wife's lover was giving my daughter and her a lift to the nursery. I was outraged that she hadn't told me, but I had the evidence to back up my claims. This only reinforced my growing belief that I couldn't trust her, even in matters related to our daughter. I couldn't believe my eyes when I hacked into her email account and found out that my wife had rented an apartment with AP. As I dug deeper, I came across a copy of the tenancy agreement which confirmed that the lease was in both their names. I had no choice but to keep this information to myself for now, as it would serve as a powerful piece of evidence during the divorce proceedings. After all, how could a mother who lies about her daughter's living arrangements be trusted to make sound decisions about her upbringing? My wife is still spinning her lies, claiming that the apartment she rented is solely for her. She reluctantly acknowledges that AP may be around when our daughter is not, but only at her discretion. What a crock. She must still think I'm a gullible fool. It's interesting to note that she's turned down offers of assistance from both me and her own family when it comes to moving her belongings. I wonder why. How long does she reckon she can keep the truth hidden that AP will be sharing a roof with our daughter for half of the week? Today's the day she moves out, and I can't help but feel a mix of emotions. It's hard to believe that only 6 weeks ago we were seemingly happy and in love. Now everything has changed. I'm looking forward to having my home back to myself, but I know that the first few days will be difficult without her and our daughter around. At the same time, I can't shake off the dread of what's to come. My wife's decisions have made the custody battle inevitable. Even though it's not what's best for anyone involved, it's going to be a long and messy road ahead. The biggest mistake I made was tying the knot with her. At the start of our relationship, she left her fiancé for me and moved in with me within a month of our first night together. I'll admit it, I was the other man. I know it makes me look bad, but she made me believe her ex was awful and bombarded me with love and attention. Maybe I was just naive or thought it was real love. Now I've come to the realization that I deserve better than a woman who can't be faithful, even if it means being single. Looking back, I see all the errors I made. I never should have married a known cheater. I should have never trusted that she wouldn't cheat again, and when she did, I should have had the self-respect to walk away from the mess.